As we got closer to the face in the rock, I knew for sure that we were on the right track. It was definitely the same as the face in the painting, but with one difference. The symbol of the tabula was missing from the rock formation. Well, here we are.
But no way to reach the face. Let's have a look around. There must be a way up. The chapel looked like it had been built into the cliff face itself. George, the chapel looks like it's been built right into the rock.
You're right. We should take a look inside.
I wonder, how old do you think the chapel is?
I'm guessing the exterior's a couple of 100 years old, but the inside? Who knows? Some parts could be much older.
You think somehow this chapel might be connected to the face in the rock?
At a guess, I would say so. Hey, look! It's Pearl and Dwayne.
Come on, honey bun. Things ain't that bad.
You just don't understand. Today's been a disaster.
But
The monastery was closed. We got stuck in the cable car. And now this place is a building site.
aw, sweetie pie.
This was supposed to be the spiritual highlight of our trip, Dwayne. But the only spirit I see is that rotten turpentine over there.
Aw, heck.
Clearly, the Hendersons weren't having a great vacation. It was an old crank handle. Wood shavings. This was one building site that needed Mr. Tidy. They smelt exotic. My mother always said cleanliness is next to godliness. Great to see you again, Mr. Henderson.
Great to see you too, George. Great work back there with the cable car.
Is Pearl okay?
I wish. I'm afraid we're having one of those days where everything goes wrong.
Tell me about it. What have you been up to since we last met in Quaramonte?
Well, there was that little sideshow in Rome, but we can't talk about that. You know why, George.
I do? I do.
Why?
Top secret.
Need to know, Nico. Dwayne is, snoozer.
Don't you mean a sleeper?
No way, honey. A snoozer's at least 2 pay grades up from a sleeper. So I hear. Anyway, I don't believe I've had the pleasure, Miss,
Nicole Collar. Call me Nico.
Well, how's about that? So this is the beautiful Nico. No wonder you've been hiding her away from me, Georgie boy.
Gosh, no,
It's lovely to finally meet you too, Mr. Henderson. George has told me so much about you.
Oh, call me Dwayne, my dear. And let me assure you of one thing. Everything you've heard is quite possibly true.
Dwayne was loud, large, and short-sighted, but boy was he a charmer. Is there anything we can do for Pearl?
I sure as hell hope so, George. She's been planning and researching this trip for years, our little pilgrimage. And Santa Cova Chapel here was the cherry on the cake. Not a thing she don't know about this place. Madonna, blah, blah, blah. Chapel built in, yada, yada, yada. She's Santa Cova's very own walking encyclopedia. Well, weeping encyclopedia, I should say.
So what brings you to Santa Cova?
Pearl's idea from the get-go. Ever since the unfortunate car accident back home, she's been scouring those pilgrimage brochures. Gotta be full of wonder and life-changing imagery. Got to have penance potential. Got to offer a real spiritual experience.
Well, I'm sure this place will be very spiritual once it's finished.
If the chapel is not what she expected, how about the monastery?
Hot dog, no. That place is for tourists, not pilgrims.
You said she expected a spiritual experience?
Well, that's what the brochure promised. Pilgrimages, little monk fellas, singing, shafts of light, the whole shebang.
Smells, bells, and heavenly lights.
Yeah, that's what the lady wanted. Oh, excuse me, Pearl needs me. There, dear.
Pearl could be a mine of information about the chapel if we could just cheer her up. I lit the candles on the candelabra. I rested the side mirror precariously on the candelabra. I secured the mirror in place with some yarn. Now that was something. The light from the candelabra spilled over the Black Madonna like waves of spiritual goodness in candle form. A statue of the Madonna and Child watched over the chapel. An empty, coffee-stained mug had been left by the altar. I put the shavings in the mug. I mixed the flowers with the shavings. Potpourri. Kind of. I sprayed Brett onto my experimental potpourri. 1 sniff would kill a man for sure. 2 might kill a woman. I lit the scented shavings. A sweet aroma started to fill the room. I poured the turpentine into the paint can. The hammer produced a promising sound. G. B, if I wasn't mistaken.
What are you up to?
Look, I made a Churchenspiel. Well, that was fun. Hi, Dwayne.
Hey, George.
Did you see the Black Madonna?
Oh, you betcha. She's the little lady we came to see, though Pearl's in too much of a state to even look at her.
Hey, that tune you were whistling earlier, it sounded familiar.
Oh, it's Schubert's Ave Maria. In our courting days, me and Pearl used to hang out with the Campanology Society. It was Pearl's favorite. Oh, excuse me. Pearl needs me. There, dear.
The hammer produced a promising sound. F sharp. G. B. A. G. I had it. It was the tune Dwayne was humming.
George, that's Ave Maria. Let me have a go.
Wow, you really nailed that, Nico.
Yep, this mop really is pretty special. Leave this to me.
Pumpkin? Oh my!
What?
The sound of angels, the lights of heaven, the smell of piety, and
Yes?
the Madonna, I do believe. Tears. She's crying, Dwayne. The Madonna's crying. Little Timmy. Wrong side of the road. Not my fault. The broken leg. Compensation claim. Forgive me, poor Timmy.
Oh, Pearl, my precious, you're such a sensitive soul.
Well, now that's done. I feel my soul's floating on air. We can get on with our pilgrimage, Dwayne.
Just another 1,000 clicks to go.
Pearl was back to her usual cheery self. Mrs. Henderson,
George, dear boy.
how you feeling?
Oh, just fine, thank you. I have just seen a miracle, George. It's all gonna be all right from now.
I'm sure it is, Mrs. Henderson. I'm sure it is. So, Pearl, what have you been up to since we last met?
Well, George, I've been on a journey.
Oh, really? Well, what kind of journey?
A spiritual one. A journey along the road to enlightenment.
Wow. And is that what brought you here?
It is. Though Santa Cova is but one step on that road.
What's so special about Santa Cova?
It's an ancient and very holy place. I've spent the last year researching it, and I can truly say there is nothing I do not know about it.
I don't suppose you'd know anything about that rock out there?
No, only that for 1,000 years, people have claimed to see a face in its shapes.
Still, keeping busy, Dwayne?
Like the man said, George, that old kaleidoscope keeps getting shaken, and the pieces are ever in flux.
Guess it's your job to pick 'em up, huh?
Well, somebody has to do it, compadre.
I enjoyed talking to Dwayne, but I was rarely any the wiser afterwards. What can you tell me about the statue?
I read that the Black Madonna has been here since the 9th century. She's called the Virgin of Montserrat. Some say the original was moved to the cathedral. But Dwayne and I know that's just a bluff, don't we, honey?
We sure do. This one is the real McCoy.
What can you tell me about Santa Cova?
Well, dear, they call it the Chapel of the Holy Grotto. It was built directly into the mountain itself in 1696. It survived the Napoleonic Wars, mudslides, Civil War. But the chapel is still standing today. It's a miracle.
Or a restoration.
What was that, dear?
Yes, a miracle. Pearl, does this mean anything to you?
Oh, nothing, dear. Apart from the obvious Gnostic connotations, of course.
What?
You know, the Dominicans. All those Gnostic saints. Doubting Thomas, Judas, and you see the woman in the red cloak? The infamous Mary Magdalene herself.
A lady in red.
That's enough now, Dwayne. You know my feelings about her.
Pearl knew her Gnostic onions, all right.
Then there's the Ouroboros, of course.
Something special about it?
Well, if I remember rightly, there was an Ouroboros right here in this chapel. Back in the 30s and 40s, the chapel was renovated. The workmen uncovered numerous symbols carved in the rock. Amongst them was a fine Ouroboros.
But that's amazing. So, where is it?
Oh, it's not there now.
Oh.
It was considered blasphemous, so they plastered over it. Sweetheart, I think it's time for us to go. The road to enlightenment waits for no woman.
'Tis the pilgrim's lot, George.
It was so nice to see you again. And meet your girlfriend.
We're not...
Take this radio, Nico. Never know when you might need it. Keep an eye on our boy George here.
Poor little lost lamb.
I'm not...
Don't worry, this little lamb's in safe hands. Bon voyage.
Bye-bye, dears.
See ya. Nico, don't even start.
Little lamb?
Let's focus on the task in hand, shall we? Okay, this Ouroboros that Pearl mentioned.
You're right. We need to find it.
A modern plaster altar had been built against the rock. I hoped this was the right thing to do. Hey, Nico, I found the Ouroboros.
So what now?
Pearl was right. The plaster had covered an Ouroboros. I pushed the Ouroboros, but nothing happened. The wall here was made of bare rock. It looked like the chapel had been built right into it. There was a recess in the wall with a Latin word carved above it. Puritas, purity. I'd seen that word before somewhere. I pulled the Ouroboros, but it wouldn't budge. What was that noise? I knew it. Another secret passageway.
Amazing, George. How did you do it?
Just another case of the old Stobart magic, I guess, Nico. It looks a little dark in there.
Are you scared, George?
Of course not. Just worried about you tripping, that's all. Whoa, this is one dark cave.
It's the door that worries me, George.
Well, I'm sure the door will open again if we give it a minute. No need to panic. Now we panic. Help! I gotta say, Nico, you're pretty calm about this.
Traveling with you, George, I've got used to this kind of thing. If I panicked every time a door shut behind us, probably forever, well...
You're right. What was I thinking? You see if you can get the door open, and I'll go check out the dark, evil-smelling cave. Fumbling around in the dark wasn't going to be fun. But heck, I'd spent a lifetime doing it, so what was new? The thing had branches like a tree. It felt cold and smooth, like worn stone. It was stone with a recess in it and, an oily liquid in it. There was some kind of thin twine in the middle of it, too. Hey, Nico, I think I found some light. Whoa!
It must be Genan. Ramon said he disappeared while searching the mountains for the tabula.
So this is where he ended up, dead in a cave. And on closer inspection, I'd even say blown your own brains out dead.
Okay, George, I get the point. What is this place?
Who knows? But look at the Gnostic symbols.
You're right. The colors, the trees. But who is she?
It looks like the Virgin Mary, but I don't think it is.
What do you mean?
The red robes and that whole off-the-shoulder look? It must be Mary Magdalene, of course. Marquez told me that the Gnostics revered her. This place, it's some kind of Gnostic shrine.
There's got to be something to release that door. Maybe amongst these carvings.
But if it was that obvious, don't you think Genan would have found it? Genan had certainly been busy before he blew his brains out. I wonder what he'd been up to. Nico!
What?
Is this what I think it is? It must be the Tabula Veritatis.
So Genan did find it.
It's so small, so innocent looking. Why would Simeon call it evil? Why so many deaths for this?
And why go to such lengths to keep it hidden?
Unless it is as genuinely dangerous as Simeon claimed.
The question now is, what do we do with it?
The photograph was of an ancient clay tablet. Genan had written on it. Someone, presumably Genan, had taken the time to translate the inscription. At a glance, the inscription seemed to relate to the exploits of someone called the Sun King. The symbol on the tablets looked similar to the ones etched into the face of the Tabula Veritatis. If Gainon's translation is correct, the symbol La Ji Shi represents the Sunset Mountain. Sounds like a theme park ride. If Gainon's translation is correct, the symbol La Ha Shi represents the Sun City region. Gainon had marked this symbol in red with the letter A. Shi translates as Mountain Kingdom. Gainon had marked this symbol with the letter B. Du A Shi apparently means the Two River region. The symbol Zhu Ha was translated as the Young Cities. Gainon had marked this symbol with the letter E. I picked up the old gun. It was too corroded and rusty to ever be fired again. It was a fedora, just like the one in Gainon's trunk back at the Castell. The years hadn't been kind to it. It had to be Gainon, in which case the body had been there for decades. There was a bullet hole in the side of his head. Just like us, he'd been trapped. He'd chosen suicide. Ex luce veritas. Out of light, truth. I'd seen the same words on the fresco at Castel de Sants. It was an old water canteen. The contents had long since been drunk. It was an old flashlight. It looked like it died around the same time as Gainon. The circle of iron was set into an ornate frame that covered the oil lamp. Oil in the bowl of the lamp fed a wick, illuminating the room with a warm glow. The medallion fitted snugly into the socket. Whoa, would you take a look at that?
The light from the medallion is illuminating this green figure.
This could be our ticket out of here.
If you're right, that explains why Gainon never got out of here. He didn't have the medallion.
The carved figure had once been green. I wondered if it was a representation of Jehovah. A large carving of the tabula veritatis symbol. All the other figures in the scene seemed to be supplicating themselves to it. Blue paint was peeling from the carved figure. I wondered if it was an image of Lucifer. The ornate lamp warranted a closer look. A group of figures looked up towards the tabula. They were all colored red. I'd seen something like it before.